Hello. So I'm live to conclude Archeo week, the week of the Archeo. This is it. This should be it. Yeah, this is it. This is the box. Is this Llewellyn? This is Llewellyn. It might not focus. There you go. The Archeo. So today I was at work, and I didn't want to have to be, but I was. And hey, Shayna, how you doing? I've been seeing them pickup cards popping in. Which one did I pick? I think it was the third one on the emotions one. Ouch. And I feel like now my brain just like dumped all the information, but it's fine. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I feel like my body is like getting slower and slower and slower, and my brain is just like shutting down. Labor Day weekend cannot come fast enough. Hey Holly, how you doing? Yeah, well, I decided not to work yesterday, so then I had to work today. I thought I decided not to work yesterday, but I decided to not get paid to work yesterday, but to still do other work. It's a labor of love, but I'm tired. I don't regret that. I don't regret doing it. I wish I didn't have to do it, but I don't regret doing it. But yeah, it was only like 3.5 hours. So it was less than a half day this time because there have been some 5 hour days. But I was at work and I was thinking about the reading last time. And I was like, oh, there's been like this consistent like thing happening. So at first it was like there were readings that were like the self, like what? Come on, brain. The self in the absence of internal conflict, what that makes room for. And then in like the revelations SKT, there were like people who were watching, or there were like the painted figures on the ceiling watching the person learning to ease internal conflict with the self and to come into a more internal unity. And they were watching, right? And then yesterday it was like something is about to happen. I think it's because of the absence of that internal conflict that's being observed and witnessed. Maybe we're going to be in a position to make certain choices and decisions more easily or with more confidence and conviction or whatever. And so there's something that now we can be entrusted with before. And I talked about like the war of Angelarium year 2. And I was like, well, what if that's the war of the wolves within us? Then the wolf that wins is the wolf that we feed, right? It's like maybe there was this knowing that humanity being both with all of duplicity, all the multiplicity and multidimensionality that we hold, that ultimately the good would win out within us. And then maybe they experienced a few people who let the not so great win to meet not so good ends for others. And then there's like, ooh. But now we're being entrusted with something. I don't know. But anyway, I have the Archeo. We're going to get the last card. Ooh. We might just take this one. Reflector. Who's at the top? The angel. The angel reflector. What? And then the hypocrite. Is it? Hold on. Hypocrite. Does hypocrite have an E on the end of it? Or does it just terminate in a T? Where's Siri? Because I'm like, is that hypocrite? Is it? Hey Siri. How do you spell hypocrite?
Hypocrite. H.
Yeah.
Y.
It is
P. O. Crite.
So I read it right the first time. And then, like, yesterday I saw it and I was like, is that how you spell it? I told y'all my brain is going, okay? I've been working a lot. That's my excuse. I got it right the first time. The angel reflector. Am I taking this? Sure. Is this how we're concluding Archeo Week? The reflector was at the bottom, the angel was at the top. Let's get a tail. The tail of the wolf. Okay. Why not? I mean, you've been here literally almost all week. How are y'all doing? I'm excited to conclude this week. And I feel like, honestly, sometimes I'm like, okay, well, what next? Is there any going back to when times were simpler? A simpler time. I've been hearing that so much on the radio on the way to work. A simpler time. It's like, remember when blah, 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 blah. A simpler time. And then maybe they'll play like oldies. All right, see you, Holly. Excuse me. So, the attribute of the angel. From the outset, the angel has been assigned to you. She keeps you from mishap and makes sure you give your best, but her protection is not guaranteed. Her assistance comes in direct proportion to your willingness to search for truth. As long as you continue your soul's quest, she will be with you. But if you become lazy and refuse to journey, she will evaporate like mist into the ether. Oof. Well, I feel like that's like the game of truths. That's what I titled it. Because it felt like, I guess, a good way to sum up the energy of like what is true because it is true, what's true because it's become true, and what is something that can be true if we decided for it to be. Like, there are certain things that, like, especially when it comes to us as people, right? Because she said, if you become lazy, she'll evaporate. Well, we can choose to not be lazy. Like, maybe our truth is that we're lazy. And then one day we're like, you know what? I'm not going to be lazy anymore. I'm going to do all the things. Our truth changes. We change, right? We change, so the truth changed. And because our truth changed, then our personal truth and the grand scheme of truths causes some ripples that will change our experience. And so then what we believe as true of our experience changes because we change. When we're more engaged with the world and stuff, our experiences change. And because we have a different set of experiences, or because we're open to experiencing certain things more frequently than other things, our perception of what is true of the world at large can change. So it's the angel giving assistance, as much assistance as we are willing to search for truth, is the attribute. The persona is the reflector. We have struggled in abject loneliness, trapped on a snowbound mountainside, wrestling with the angel of no man's God, and we are exhausted from trying to hold out our fragile self image. How pointless our resistance when all we crave is truth. The reflector is devoid of artifice and deception. His integrity is flawless, and he offers us relief from the absurdity of false heroics. Neither kind nor cruel, he is our honest twin, stripping away the illusion that entraps us. When we face him, his steady gaze slips like mercury through our pupils, down past our organs, and into our central nervous system. From there, it searches out our soul's core. We try to cover our shame, but his stare ignores our prudish defenses. He has come to release us from the dreadful burden of pretense. And when we finally acknowledge that we have been unmasked, a deep laugh breaks free from our belly, releasing our fears into the gutter. And then the tale of the wolf. The wolf. That's the author. The wolf is the last card. The forest's looping paths offer no clear point of reference. The disoriented human goes around in circles. The wolf watches. Before long, the befuddled man halts, head in hands, wondering what possessed him to take such a shortcut. When he looks up, the wolf is standing in front of him. As a child, he'd been petrified of fictional wolves. Now, faced with the large, real one, he knows he's about to die. But he's wrong, as he has been about most things, because the wolf, spreading its jaws, gently takes his sleeve and guides him to the forest's edge. Okay, so there's a little bit of conditioning in there. I feel like we're hitting all the major bases. um, it's almost like the angel can protect us as long as we don't consign to the thing, right? But there's another point to the angel, and it's like not only is the angel there to protect us from whatever it's there to protect us from, it's also there to help guide us towards whatever internal truths are along our journey to find. And as we do that, there may be things that we're conditioned to believe, that or there may be truths that we pick up along our lifetime that at some point serve us, but we outgrow them, or we eventually learn that they limit us more than they aid us. And there's a point there's an opportunity to realize that to continue to believe that is to continue to constrain ourselves in some way. And here's the wolf watching from beyond the veil. So let's go. Let's find the wolf. Now my decks are no longer together, and honestly, I'm not gonna put them together just for the sake of this video. The tarot is easier for me to understand than the animals, honestly, but I'm not gonna put them together, even though that's how they were originally. I'm just gonna go for the animals. I am gonna shuffle it. Am I gonna shuffle it? Or am I gonna take it as it is? Either way, it doesn't matter. So I'm just gonna take it as it is. Right? Because as long as we are in the pursuit of truth, we will find that truth. When we are really of the mind to find truth and not just something that confirms, not just fuel for like a confirmation bias, then the truth will out. Oh, well, look, literally at the bottom of the deck, right behind the rabbit, is the wolf, and then the black egg is behind that. But what did it say? Um, the deep belly laugh that releases the fear. And under the black egg is this spider. I think there's a very, I feel like this came out in one of the Archeo readings this week. Um, but there's an emphasis on us knowing who we are outside of the world. It's like because of the life that we live and because of the experiences that we have, we become shaped by the world. Because of the conditions of our birth, we become shaped and molded in some way. But it's almost like that's the day with no mirrors, almost. Or that's what it's feeling like today. It's like, well, who would we be without all of that? And that's what the reflector does. So it's angel with the purpose of the reflector, right? Because that's the persona of the energy today. And so it's all about finding, helping to reveal a deeper truth. And so it's almost like in some space, the angel is removing us from karma. And maybe that plays into the stars yesterday. How the sky was being washed of stars for the alchemists to paint new ones. But it's like for us to discover who we really are outside of some of the choices and decisions that we've already made. And that was that Six of Cups energy, where it can be like either nostalgia or trauma that we can get hung up on. And because of that, we allow it to continue to dictate our future moving forward. Right? That was the Eight of Pentacles and the Seven of Cups around the Six of Pentacles. Where with that Seven of Cups, we can have other choices, other options, other paths, other ways. But with the Eight of Pentacles, we continue down the line that we were already on, more or less. Even though we don't necessarily have to. But I don't necessarily think that there's just like, hey, you have been separated from like all your karma. All your karma is gone. Life will now be brand new and clean slate, clean karmic slate. So choices and decisions that you make now and moving forward, that's what, we're resetting the system. Because when there was less knowing, when there was less awareness, when the system was what it was, we were under the belief or under the illusion that we didn't really have choice. And so maybe there were some choices and decisions that we made because we felt we had to make them in that time to survive. And it's almost like, I wonder in Christianity, right? Because Jesus came, he died on the cross for our sins. And so it's like you sin in before Jesus or in whatever. Jesus comes, dies for your sins, they're wiped clean. And then like you wake up the next day and like what? Because the world continued after he was crucified. It's not like it got shut down and then rebooted, right? It didn't flood and then, we're going to start over. There was a continuation, and that happened in the middle of many people's lifetimes. And so do you just like wake up one day and start making completely different choices and decisions when like a day before, a few days before, a week before you were living this life of whatever? You know what I mean? Or is it the case that that's almost constantly happening and karma doesn't necessarily work the way we think it does? Or karma hasn't been working the way that we think it does? I don't know. It's not my job to know. I'm like, oof. I'm going to look before and after 2 cards. 3 cards. A crystal clear night of charted stars for yesterday. A displacement replaced also for yesterday. And a day with no mirrors for today. But that also came out, before, but it's for today. Because that energy is returned, it's present again. And the black egg, I think it's Reem, who the black egg is like a truth for. And the black egg came out. Which gate did we do? I think it was gate 6. Gate 5 or 6. And then the black egg came out. And the black egg was coming out before then as like our voice of truth. As long as you're seeking truth and you have the protection of this angel and she's going to guide you to it. Well, here is that truth that lies beyond fear. But the purpose of one of the effects of the reflector is that it casts out fear, or it helps us to cast out fear. I am going to shuffle this one just because I feel like it. You know what I mean? Oh, gosh. No, that's like half the deck. I'm not taking all these cards. Where's my phone? It might look brighter in here because I have this white screen just beaming me. But it is quite dark in here. Excuse me. Wasn't it the angel of ruin who fell on the floor last time? Asbiel. Okay. So the cards that came out, the 2 of hearts and the 8 of hearts. 2 plus 8 of hearts is the 10 of hearts. Being between worlds, a vision brought to life, choices that require foresight and communication. An explosive vision, a nurturing light and burning passion. A vision brought to life and an explosive vision. A nurturing light and burning passion. Am I taking these? Sure. I'll just put them on the table. Maybe they'll work, yeah. Oh, gosh. Well, there's the 10 of hearts. It just flipped over. A stargate that leads to fantastic places, correcting what has been misused, stabilizing timelines. Okay, so that is meant to be here. Because in the story, right, of the war in Angelarium Year 2, correcting what has been misused caused a displacement. Now that there is some proving that we won't misuse things in ways that we did in the past because we're no longer subjected to the same chaotic turbulence internally due to external situations that we were in the past, because there's some kind of stability and foundation that we have within ourselves now that makes us more able, more capable of showing up in a certain fullness when life happens, because life is going to continue to happen. So then whatever was displaced can now be returned. The 8 plus the 2 is the 10. Okay, work. 2 of diamonds. Okay, I'm looking for a thing, so I got to read. A shared vision, talking about the vision. So it's the 8 of diamonds, the 2 of spades, and the 4 of diamonds. So that's the 12 of diamonds, which would be the king. No, the queen. The queen of diamonds. Because the jack is 11. That's a displacement replace. So now I'm looking for the others. The 7 of diamonds is in reverse. Oh, darn it. I had hoped this card would come out, but it didn't. I was like, ooh, that one's going to come out, or it would be nice if it did. Okay, here's our crystal clear night of charted stars. Oh, it almost came out. So the card is fueling the growing fire of truth. And I was like, oh, truth is a thing. Creating space for a miracle, delving inside to go beyond. And then after that is the Jack of Diamonds. And then it's the 5 of Diamonds, which is that crystal clear night of charted stars. So here we go. Jack of Diamonds, 5 of Diamonds, Queen of Spades. So the first is 8 of Diamonds, Queen of Spades, or 8 of Diamonds, 2 of Spades, 4 of Diamonds. And then it's Jack of Diamonds, 5 of Diamonds, Queen of Spades. So diamonds and spades, earth and air, are the elements we're working with, apparently. What was the last one? A crystal clear, a day with no mirrors. That's the last one I need. I am mostly through this deck. So I hope I didn't pass it. Okay, here it is. Oh, goodness, I was afraid. I only had like 4 cards left. So it's the 4 of Hearts, the 9 of Clubs, and the King of Spades. King of Diamonds was at the top or bottom. I was pulling from the bottom, so at the top. And it came out, collision or cohesion. A bell that brings the physical and intangible into harmony as it pulses out into the universe. No, was that one the numbers because it was only 2 lines? No, maybe it wasn't. That was a different card. That was the numbers. So everything on the table is diamonds and spades, except for the last line, around the day with no mirrors. It's hearts, clubs, and spades. Really? Oh, wait. Oh, it's paused. It's been paused this whole time. I forgot to hit play. I was like, this thing ain't never gone, like, fell asleep on me before. That's because it's been paused. I need to make a screensaver, though. Maybe I need to, like, upload pictures so it'll cycle through them. Anyway. So, we have 3. Can I place these to these? Stripped Bare, a game of charades, a day with no mirrors. Is that the black egg? Nearly perfect harmony, a crystal clear night of charted stars, and triplets in the 3rd trimester. I guess we'll put you on the wolf. We'll just go do do do. And then these we'll put on the rabbit. A displacement replaced unintended and unforeseen consequences. Unforeseen consequences and a need for wisdom. Yeah. That's something that can be difficult for the rabbit because it's a prey animal, right? And when you're a prey animal, everything is a threat, even the things that are there to potentially help you. And then we go looking for security anywhere we can find it, pretty much. And sometimes there are some who will take advantage of that. Sometimes we don't find them in our vulnerability. Sometimes we do. We'll see if these fit. So around this displacement is a complete set of a displacement replaced. is a complete set of instructions, a stubborn moth reborn as a firefly in its successful trip, along with dawn before the first day of a new world, which is interesting. An old earth passed away in a breathtaking sight. This is interesting. Eight of diamonds is the eight of pentacles. Four of diamonds is the four of pentacles. Within the context of this, the four of pentacles is us being able to resolve conflict within ourselves. It was in the four of pentacles, the conservator, in the Revelations edition, that the painted figures on the ceiling was observing the one in balance within themselves in a very masterful way. The eight of diamonds is a card usually associated with mastery, but it's associated with mastery because it's a card of furthering what is, of going deeper. Now, these are almost conflicting because we have the dawn before the first day of a new world and an old earth passed away, right next to like a complete set of instructions that's on the eight of diamonds, which is like, oh, like let's make new earth exactly like old earth. Now, that's not something that we do intentionally, but it's something that ends up happening. It's something that can end up happening if we don't take an honest look at what choices and decisions were made and how we got there in the first place. Because few things, some things do, some things, most things, few things don't start as what they terminate as, right? It'll start small and then it'll build up and build up and build up, or something small will happen and then it'll like spiral out of control. And then you end up with this whole mess. A stitch in time saves nine. If you stitch it when you notice it, boom, it's taken care of. But if you let it go, rip, 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 now you got to apply 9 times as many stitches as you would have if you would have nipped it in the bud, right? Stitched it in the bud. It becomes that way. And because things become something else, if we're not aware of how it started, we can have the same start and the same beginning. But we think it's different because it's not the end result of the old world. And we're like, oh, this is new, this is different, it's going to be so good. And then after time goes on, you're like, it waxes into the same thing. The new earth becomes old earth. And it's like, how did this happen? Like, we were doing this and we were doing that. And it's like, yeah, well, there are a lot of people with the best intentions. But with this coming out under the rabbit, is it ego? Is it fear? Whatever it is that motivated some of those intentions. And as the thing grew, so too did the rot inside of it. That fear. The need to appear as a certain way to satiate the ego. And I feel like that's the energy of the unintended and unforeseen consequences, and that's why there needs to be wisdom. Right? It's like people aren't born bad or whatever. Most people. I believe most people aren't born bad. I believe there are a few people who are just born the way they are. Or I wouldn't put it past some people to just be born a certain way. You know what I mean? And you could say it's some kind of neurological thing where in the brain a certain part is underdeveloped, and so like the happier good feelings their brains just aren't developed to feel, or they're wired in a way that the things that whatever, like different things bring them pleasure or whatever. Can be, doesn't have to be. I just don't necessarily fall under the camp that every single person that is ever born is born a perfect little angel and then the world corrupts them. Some people corrupt the world, and then that world goes and corrupts other people. Sorry, anyway. Back to this. Most things aren't born that way. Most things don't start that bad. And again, it's like it's easy. It's like if you have one job that you don't like because there's a boss that micromanages you, and you go somewhere else and you're starting work and you're like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. Like I'm not getting micromanaged, and your new boss is fine. But then like there's this big project or there's this big whatever, and your boss wants to, make sure that whatever is being done. So then they start to become sort of micromanaging, and then they sort of like let off, and it's fine. Like there's a successful outcome, right? And it's like, okay, and then things peter out and then they chill out. But then I don't know, there's another big project, and then your boss does that micromanaging thing again. And let's say it happens a few times, and then the boss is like, oh well, when I micromanage, we're successful, so I should do that more. And then it becomes whatever it was. That was a sort of bad example, but it's just like at the jump, it could be the same of like relationships, right? When you first meet somebody, that's the rising and the sun. And then the more you get to know them, you get into the moon, you get into the Mercury, maybe the Venus and the Aries, or the Venus and the Mars. You know what I mean? The more you get to know somebody, then you discover, oh, this person is exactly like that other person. But it's like when we leave the relationship chronologically, what's most on our minds is how it ended, maybe. And when we start something new, it's like, oh, well, this isn't how that other thing ended. So I think it's okay. I think I'm in the clear. And then eventually it becomes that thing. Not always, but it can happen, right? It's an example of how things can become what they were. And it can be sort of hard to realize and notice. Now, around the crystal clear night of charted stars, we have a full recognition of the self that has yet to be realized, being spurred into action and aligning the bodies, paired with operating as a unified whole, living the example in a heart that shines from the depths of the soul. So this is what Jack of Diamonds, Queen of Spades, which is gorgeous. We had this, what was it? The aligning of the bodies at the bottom of the Jack of Diamonds, and then starting the Queen of Spades with operating as a unified whole. So not only are the bodies like aligning, but like we're moving with that alignment. There are things that are being done. Life is being lived from that aligned place. And then the heart that shines from the depths of the soul with that full recognition of the self. It's the Jack of Diamonds, which can be a page or a knight, but either way, it's not a king or a queen. It hasn't been realized because we haven't been that self yet. It's like we only realize, not only, but it feels like it's one of the things that has to be realized through experience, right? It's like we can have an idea, we can have a theory, we can have a guess, we can postulate and hypothesize. But when we take it out into the real world, then we see how it plays out in real life. And as we see how it plays out in real life, there's an energy of like, not only can we like fine tune, or not only can we witness and experience and see, but maybe we can see, it's almost like how it's received, but not necessarily how it's received. Um, if it's ready, how readily it's received, I guess, is a better way to put it. And through all of that, that's when it becomes to be more like realized, right? Because then it's like, oh, like I can do this and do that, and like this is how it works in real life. So we have that recognition and that alignment. Through the operation, we get the realization. Being spurred into action is coming out with the wolf. And that's the crystal clear night of charted stars. So the charted point of that is, it's like if you look up into the sky, not only do you clearly see the stars, but you also see the lines that connect them. It's like being able to see the constellation diagram with the naked eye up in the sky. So you know exactly how the dots connect. rather than just like having to connect them in whatever way you can connect them, which like there's a time and a place, right? This is just the energy of the trident stars. And so I almost wonder if in some way fear can be a mechanism used to prevent us from going down certain pathways before it's our time to. Or maybe it's like as long as we are afraid of the thing and then we're not ready to face it, kind of. Because when we're ready to face it, like there's probably still fear in the facing of it, but we find the courage and bravery to look at it anyway, to face it anyway, to overcome it, and then to venture beyond. It's an energy of the Three of Swords in the Wild Unknown Tarot for me, because the Three of Swords block a certain corridor and gateway, and it's dark because there's no light beyond there. There's no experience or there's no knowing of the truth that lies beyond that, besides the fear of what we think might be behind there. Right? And then the day with no mirrors is adaptive materialization, a murky mind or will, clouded vision, paired with inspiring others by bold example, proper magnetism and clear intention, and clearing of the fog. So we have a murky mind or will paired with the King of Swords that would have in its light a clarity of mind and of will. And then we have the clouded vision paired with the clearing of the fog. And this is on the black egg. It feels like the black egg I would say, well, it's easiest to say that it feels like the black egg is us coming into that recognition and coming into that realization off of what we've recognized as we put it into play, as we put it into practice, as we live, that we hatch into who we at the end of our cycle will be, or at the end of the current cycle, who will be, right? But it feels like the black egg is beyond that. The King of Spades is a three. The Four of Hearts is a four. The Queen of Spades is a five. The Jack of Diamonds is a six. And then we have a four and an eight. Four doubled is eight. It's either doubled or halved in the rabbit out of fear. And then it's sequential after that. Oh, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 8. I'm not gonna say it could be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 8. Anyway. Proper magnetism and clear intention. Clearing of the fog. Proper magnetism and clear intention. It's like not only are our intentions good, but also with that proper magnetism, we're doing what we need to do in order to see whatever we want to see made manifest. The adaptive materialization. Because again, it's like sometimes our intentions are good, but things can kind of sort of fall through the cracks, and then we end up in a less than ideal situation. This clearing of the fog also, it makes me think of the strategist, but I don't think it's necessarily about the strategist. I think there is something about learning to be or being with this black egg. Um, Or maybe the fog is like the veil. So the clearing of the fog is the lifting of the veil. The size of the assistance, or the amount of assistance from the angel, is directly proportional to how we seek truth, or something like that. What did it say? Her assistance comes in direct proportion to your willingness to search for truth. And then with the reflector, it's almost like the clearer we can see our own truth, not only search for that truth, but also see it and accept it and acknowledge it and work with that, like a working understanding of the truth, rather than, because like we can have a very Sagittarian, like textbook understanding of a truth sometimes, or we can have a very, I guess even Gemini, like theoretical understanding of the truth because of what we experience in our day-to-day lives. But to know what it actually is, to collapse that polarity, it's like to have this theoretical but also practical understanding of a truth. It's basically when theory matches reality, and there aren't a crap ton of exceptions. You know what I mean? Like, this is true in an ideal world, in a perfect little bubble, but we don't live in an ideal world, and nothing is perfect. So, here's an exception, there's an exception, everything is an exception because, you know, life is chaotic like that. Um, but it's like when we have that, when the truth is what we think it is, it makes me think of, was that the thinker? It wasn't maybe it was the thinker in the mausolea, where it's like he has no illusions about himself in his life or in his death. It's like that same level of truth seeking and accepting that we meet ourselves with, we can then turn around and see the same in the world around us and the people and the forces at play. And again, I feel like there's an emphasis on, because of the wolf and because of the rabbit right here. And it came out before, there's an emphasis of like what the presence of fear and an unchecked, unrestrained ego can do within the processing of a person's mind, or how they make decisions, basically. How they make choices and decisions, and what choices and decisions that they make. It's like both the process that leads to the making of that choice or decision, and the carrying out the action that results from that choice or decision. Right? Those are things that can impact us or impair our ability to make a sound whatever. Because the King of Swords is here. Clear intention, clearing fog, proper magnetism. It is, and then we had the aligning of the bodies here, right? Aligning and operating, aligning the bodies, operating as a unified whole, and then we have proper magnetism over here. So like everything is in line. So I feel like that demystifies quite a bit of this. As we work through our own triggers, as we work through our own fears, as we can be not only more honest and truthful with ourselves and others, um, but as we can learn to seek and accept the truths of others. It's like not only sharing our truth authentically, but learning to accept the truth, the authentic truths of others. And as our world becomes shaped and molded by these meetings of truths, uh, things change. And it's like, yeah, I mean, it follows. That's, if you're no longer afraid of snakes, then you can go into the anaconda exhibit at the zoo, right? Or you can go to some country where they have big snakes or a lot of snakes, and since you're not afraid anymore, like, you allow yourself to go there. You have access to something that you wouldn't have previously because of a choice or decision that you would make to not place yourself in that environment where that could happen. But sometimes when we make choices and decisions to not place ourselves in certain environments because of what could happen, we also sort of, limit our opportunities to experience the other things that those places hold. Like kangaroos, if you're going to Australia, or I don't know, panda bears, if the panda bear exhibit is close to the snake exhibit, you know, there are choices. There are like unforeseen, that was a card, unforeseen and unintended consequences. There are things connected to things, connected to things. And it's just how experiences can unfold, or it's the nature of proximity in both physical ways and in um, mental, emotional, abstract ways, right? Like if you're super afraid of being hurt, but you're so afraid, like you're super afraid of being hurt and you want love, but you're more afraid of being hurt than you are desiring of love or open to the opportunity of experiencing love. And so whenever there comes the time for you to be vulnerable in a situation, in a relationship, that fear kicks in and the relationship can't survive it. But in order to find the level of love and the type of love that you're looking for, that vulnerability is like required. And if you truly love someone, they're going to have the power to be able to hurt you. Doesn't mean that they will, doesn't mean that they won't. We're all human, we make mistakes. But if your fear outrides anything else, you're not going to get that experience that you want. And it's one of those things that are interconnected. Can you have a deep, profound love and absolutely no vulnerability? I don't know. Fueling the growing fire of truth, creating space for a miracle, delving inside to go beyond. At the end, the card comes out, even if it wasn't attached to one of the three that I would have hoped. The Ten of Spades. Bottom of the deck is the red Joker, material intervention, the coming of spring, and mastering the game of life. Material intervention is interesting because that was sort of the question. With like more so along the line of like Jesus, when Jesus was crucified, did everybody wake up the next day and was like, oh, I feel a lot, I feel like the weight of my sins have been lifted. You know what I mean? Or was it just like another day and they just keep doing the same thing even though that opportunity was given to them? You know what I mean? But something is coming in to change something. That's like material intervention means like in a very real way, something is shifting and happening. Like, you know, you win the lottery or whatever. Your life is materially changing in a very experiential way. It's not like it's more direct, less indirect. Let's see. Well, I see the bear and the bat. The bears and the bats. Bears hibernate. Bats sleep during the day. Nocturnal hibernation. Okay. Final animal. Last animal. We got 3, to Y. The oyster with the hawk at the bottom of the deck. The hawk and the oyster. Oyster talks about hidden things. And the hawk has a certain perceptive ability, has a very sharp eye. I guess the question is this hidden well enough to avoid the eye of the hawk? And the rabbit is behind the hawk. There you go. Where's the rabbit? There you go. Shirosagi? Is that white rabbit? Shirosagi? I think so. Shiroi. And then Usagi. Shirosagi. Sorry. I was gonna say Monday Jitachi ga Isekai Karakuru sold this, yo. Problem children are coming from another world, aren't they? Oof. Anyway. It feels like the hawk is searching for it. And the oyster. So it's like as soon as the oyster. Oh, hold up, wait. As soon as the oyster reveals it, it's like. It feels like that's a signal or a beacon for the hawk. But as long as the oyster withholds, then nothing happens. So maybe it's just like it's a time to share. You know what I mean? Share your pearls of wisdom. And just know, like, just because you share your own experiences or whatever, it's like the burden and the weight of discernment sometimes falls on the audience. You know what I mean? Because not everything is going to be for everybody, but just because something isn't for a few specific individuals doesn't necessarily mean that no one should get access to a certain information. You know what I mean? Because there's someone out there who is waiting on somebody like you to say or do whatever you're going to do so that they feel comfortable in doing it themselves. Because maybe right now they think they're the only one. And because they're the only one, it's easier for them to feel wrong to themselves. You know what I mean? And so then that's a whole internal conflict and a half that they have within themselves when maybe you can show up and show them that, you know, there's no reason to feel conflicted. You're beautiful just as you are. There are many purposes and reasons behind many things that we don't understand and that we won't understand because we don't know the grand. Not only do we not know the grand scheme of things, but we can't necessarily see into the realm of infinite potentialities where, like, this one thing happens and here's a bajillion different things that can happen. This happens, that happens, these other happens, that opens up another cajillion possibilities. And you know what I mean? We don't all of that. So we just do the best we can. Follow your guidance, intuition. And I think more often than not, it's something within the self. It's that rabbit. Be it ego, be it fear, where we stop ourselves, even though we know that something is for us to do or share. So, you know, anyway. Bottom of the deck is the shadow diver. Oh, we get the lion. Oh, the lion is awake. Because in Awakening, or in The Awakener, the lion was like asleep and the owl was doing a on the horn. The lion is up. Lion's like, what have I missed while I've been asleep? I mean, depends on how long you've been asleep, lion. And then the shadow diver. I don't want to read the lion. I guess I'll read the attribute of the lion with the persona of the shadow diver, because why not? LMNOP. Here's the lion. That's the jester. If you can convince him to be with you, you will also learn to temper your spurious inclinations. And if circumstances demand it, you'll be able to call upon his massive strength and ferocity. But he's not your pet. His noble heart exists to protect the abused and misused, and he abhors the cruelty of self-serving authority. Oof. So it's like, I don't want to say don't live long enough to become the villain, but it feels like it's playing on that energy again of what the four of diamonds and the eight of diamonds, where the four of diamonds was like dawn before the first day of a new earth and old earth passed away, and then the eight of diamonds, eight of pentacles was like keep doing the same old, a complete set of instructions. You already know what to do. That's how we can unintentionally create the same environment that we were wishing to leave, or we can unintentionally seek out more of what we already had. And it's partially because of a depth of truth seeking. Maybe we don't really put in the time, energy, or effort to find out how or why things ended up the way that they did. And because we didn't, there's only so much agency we would have in determining, predicting, and guiding the outcome of anything new. If we don't know what really caused it, you know what I mean? If you can convince him to be with you, you will also learn to temper your spurious inclinations, and if circumstances demand it, you'll be able to call upon his massive strength and ferocity. But he's not your pet. His noble heart exists to protect the abused and misused, and he abhors the cruelty of self-serving authority. So Lion's like, I can turn on you just as quickly as you turn me on the others if you become that thing. And it's not a turn on you, as like I said, it's more like it exists for a purpose and for a reason. Sometimes we align with that purpose and reason. Sometimes we live long enough to be on the other side, right? It's just like, don't do that. Don't become your pain to the point that you inflict it upon others, and especially to the point where you feel justified in inflicting it upon others. Because the same justice that you wish upon whoever or whatever else, you're going to be inviting upon yourself if you become it. And that's literally what you wished, manifested, desired, and prayed for. And again, with justice, it feels more black and white than like, oh, like you're in power now. Okay, I'll overlook it because like you're in power now. So I won't do the thing that you told me to do to this energy now that you're this energy. It's like, no, like you called me down to handle this. So if you're doing it, it's the angel of vengeance, the Mikiel. It's like, don't throw stones if you live in a glass house. Because when it comes down, like that energy, it judges everything and everybody. There isn't necessarily like, oh, you were supposed to overlook what I was doing and just go and like punish them. It's like, no, I don't know if it works that way. Maybe that's why more often than not more often than not, but maybe that's why sometimes justice is just like, you don't really want me down there, so I'm just going to sit over here quiet. Because if I come down there, I'm going to call you out too. And you're like, oh, yeah, you know what? You're right. Stay up there. I'll clean this up first. And then we'll revisit the situation in the future if it's still appropriate. Hey, Steph, how you doing? I just, it was like 15 seconds. Maybe it was less. I saw your owl friend again. Excuse me, how you doing? You had a dream about me last night? What kind of dream? What was I doing? Did I have a dream last night? Did I have a dream last night? I don't know. Was I like on live pulling cards? Yeah. Excuse me. So that was the lion. The persona. Wait, we've had the persona of the shadow diver before, because it was the star climber with the persona of the shadow diver. Somewhere between childhood and adulthood, there are stories that, having tumbled down a forgotten rabbit hole, remain buried, squeezed, small, and still angry. The shadow diver is a slinky, a hunter therapist with a nose for those bitter peels, those traumas that cling limpet like to the walls of your psyche. He is a miner and an archaeologist whose agenda is to retrieve and bring to light. It is hard enough to face threats like isolation, sickness, or the malice of others, but it is harder to deal with an internal foreboding that can't be articulated. We cannot overcome fears that remain hidden, and in order to break free from their cold grip, they must first be named and acknowledged. If we do not, we will never have free choice, and we will never be triggered. Oh no. If we do not, we will never have free choice and will be forever. Give me 1 second. If we do not, I'm going to read the first sentence again because I just fumbled it so many times. We cannot overcome fears that remain hidden, and in order to break free from their cold grip, they must first be named and acknowledged. If we do not, we will never have free choice, and we will forever be triggered into inappropriate actions by their rancor. We will never have free choice, and we will forever be triggered into inappropriate actions if we don't face those fears. So I didn't read the persona of the. I didn't read the persona of the shadow diver. I really thought I did. I don't know. Oh, okay, that makes sense. So maybe this is like as we sort of manifest, call for an awakening and ascension, whatever the age of Aquarius is. It's like we are. There's a certain person that we're calling ourselves to be with this lion, with the lion awake. There's a version of ourselves that we're becoming or that we're manifesting. And anything that is out of alignment with that must be faced, handled, and addressed. Right. And that's not new for sort of shadow work, but I think sometimes we just don't know what thoughts, beliefs, choices, and behaviors we hold that work against a certain lifestyle or the maintenance of a certain or the way of life, a way of living. Like we wouldn't necessarily have a way to know some of those things. And so when things just sort of like start to come into question or fall apart, it can be easy to either misattribute or just to not know why it's happening. But then it's like after we get to where we're going and when we're doing things that we wouldn't have been capable of doing before, hindsight can come in and be like, oh, like this is like I was getting ready for this. And now that I'm here, I can do this and I can do that and I can do all of these things that I never would have been able to do living subjected to those fears that I was never facing. You know what I mean? So excuse me, at a restaurant. What? Oh, snap. Was it some good food? Cause well, you said we were in my hometown. Oof. I don't know if it's any good food here, but we can drive 20 to 30 minutes and find some good food. 'Cause- oh, snap, that's fun. I don't know. Maybe I'll be on the road again and I'll see somebody. I'm like, hey, I'm in your area. Let's meet up. Let's go do this thing. I was talking about Kirsty. Kirsty came on my mind today. She came across my mind today. I was like, I need to message her. I need to reach out. That was so much fun. I remember the woman who was talking about her grandpa. She was talking about her grandpa and French fries or chips. And I could kind of sort of barely understand her. I wasn't alone. Anyway. All right. Well, it was nice to see you for the hot second at the end of this, Steph. I hope you're doing better. I hope you're doing well. For everyone else, thank you, Holly and Shayna, for stopping through. Um, I feel like that was pretty much, that was it. The lion is awake, I guess, is the biggest takeaway. And it's the space of, because I feel like there's a lot of things that we can try to science or logic a belief around when it comes to certain things that we might not be in a position of actually doing or living or embodying. But it's almost like when we reach that point of being, when we reach that point of bravery, I guess, and courage, um, there are even more things that unfold in beautiful ways, in gorgeous ways, but also in ways that we need to be present for. And that's what lies beyond. That's why it's almost like it doesn't do us any good to try to rush into a space that we're not ready for. Or it doesn't do us any good to try to speed things up or like jump ahead, because if we're going to be asked to do things that we can't do, what's the point? Right? It's like, don't be in such a hurry and rush to graduate that you just go and print you off a piece of paper, take it to work, and then you get to work and you don't feel like you can do any of the things that as a graduate you would have been prepared to do. And school doesn't teach you everything, but it teaches you a foundation. It gives you a foundation of the basics, and it gives you a few different problem solving approaches. And then it says, all right, now go out, apply it to life as best you can, and figure it out. And the more you do, the more you face, the more you live life, the more you'll grow. And you'll learn from your failures and your successes, and you'll network and connect, and you'll have resources to help you and assist you when you need them. And it's like, it feels like we don't necessarily get the full truth either way, but at least there are some like touch points that we'll have if we go through the system, right? That might just, I don't know, make us feel a little more confident. It feels like at the end of the day, it's all about showing up and holding presence. So you don't have to go through formal education to be able to get information, knowing knowledge, know how to solve problems, know how to obtain and utilize resources and stuff like that. If you're the type of person that can just do it, then you can just do it. You know what I mean? I mean, as far as like, you don't always need something formal. Sometimes the knowing is within you, or you can get access to the information. And that's that. Like, that's what it's about. But it's like when we reach places where we become so paralyzed by a fear or by something like some kind of trigger from some trauma in the past, that now we're making choices and decisions that just aren't in alignment with maintaining that thing or taking it further, then that's when it doesn't serve us to try to rush ourselves. And that's what the shadow diver was talking about, right? It's like, if there are some things that if we never face them, we will forever be triggered into making choices and decisions to sabotage that very thing. Because some things come with other things. It's like, again, it's the question of how deeply can you be in love and not be vulnerable? So if your fear of getting hurt outweighs your ability to be present and vulnerable, relationships are going to suffer. And so, if the universe or the divine is placing you in situations to help you sort of like get over that fear or help you learn to be more and more and more vulnerable to deeper and deeper and deeper levels to prepare you to receive the very thing that you really want, it's like if all that's happening, but you don't take any of it because that fear stops you from engaging in any of those exercises that will build up your muscle to like be able to lift that and live with that weight. It's almost like it'll continue to be a 10 of wands overburden on something that you could do, but it's like fear or ego or something else just keeps you from doing. And it's about an energy of new. The new is here and the new is coming. For instance, some people's already getting it, and they'll probably be able to tell you in the moment it might not always be easy, but there's a power in presence that they would have gained, I'm assuming, to be able to sort of face those fears or handle those fears or mitigate those fears in the moment and continue to be brave and courageous and show up and get what they've desired, or to continue to like live that life. So it's actually like they're doing you a favor by not doing you favors sometimes, it seems, but that's how we learn. So mm. And I know I think Rob in his thank you video, he kind of talked about how like when he first started or when he first left his career, um, there was a certain way that he thought and hoped that everything would go, and then a year and some change later, he said he's what going like back part time and all of the feelings that can be associated with that. And he talked about some like like feeling like maybe like you failed or it was blah 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 whatever. I don't want to put words in his mouth. You can just go watch the video. And I think you've already seen it maybe. Um, but it's like we don't know what our path in life is ultimately. This is my perspective. We don't know what our path in life is ultimately. We don't know if there's something for us somewhere where we never thought we would go again, or we don't know how that's going to unfold and unfurl and work out. And we don't know how temporary it's going to be or how long term it's going to be. I don't think there are really any failures when we don't know literally anything. And anything can come from literally anything. Like that life changing miracle moment, that opportunity, that meeting, that whatever can happen anywhere at any time. So, but yeah, there's a power in, and I think that is almost the power that can be and is one of the powers of humanity or being human is to be able to sort of like face things. Uh, or there's a mutability in it. Hey, all right. Well, thank you again. It was nice to chat with you for a little bit, Steph. Keep on keeping on. Keep on going strong. I hope you all have an amazing whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. If you're not, I hope you have a better one soon and you find the courage, strength, whatever you need to start making those empowered choices and decisions to shift your life in a direction that brings the things that you want, where you become truly capable of, I guess, creating that life through the power of your choice and decision, through the power of presence in situations that might be challenging or difficult, but to remain present in those rather than to glitch out and fall into some previous program or whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, you were here, and then all of a sudden you're back in 1984 or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, good night. I will catch y'all next time I catch y'all. This next week will be a different Oracle deck, I guess. I'm going to continue doing this. It was the Threads of Fate Oracle cards last week. It was the Archeo this week. If I knew more about animals, maybe I could do an animal every day. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Or we won't. Maybe I'll just do like those last 2 zodiac signs that I still haven't done, and then we'll do something else. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when it all happens. So look forward to it or don't. As always, take these as they resonate, when they resonate, if they resonate, and if they don't, leave parts or all of it behind. If it ain't for you, don't take it. Please don't take it. But if it is, don't be afraid to. Because truth is what really gets us where we want to be. I know there are some difficult truths that are hard to face, and there are some convenient lies that are easy to believe, and that keep certain foundations of belief that we already have or that we've had in place and in play for a long time, sort of active and alive. But if ultimately at the end of the day, none of it gets you where you want to be, or none of it helps you to be that person that you want to be, then what's the point? What's the point of holding on to it if it's just going to continue to sort of like weigh you down? You know what I mean? And not weigh you down in whatever way, but it's just like if it's going to continue to leave you unfulfilled, unsatisfied, unhappy, unmotivated, then like, is it really worth it? Especially if there are opportunities that are going to be coming your way that you can receive or initiate to actually get the things that you desire. And I guess it's a question of worth. Is it worth it? I think different people, it also depends on the situation too, right? Because we don't all experience everything. We don't all have the same experiences, and we don't all experience those experiences and feelings to the same degree. We're not all impacted and affected the same by the same things. So it is more of a personal choice. And sometimes maybe the answer is yeah. The convenience or the ease or the ability that I have to like cope right now makes it worth it. Because I just cannot face that right now. There's too much going on in my life, or I don't feel strong enough. I don't have the support system. And there's no judgment there, right? Just be honest with yourself. And then I feel like when the support system comes along, or when whatever we need to help us face those things comes our way, then maybe we'll have the presence to take it when we can, and then to get out. You know what I mean? But sometimes you just got to be where you are for a little bit longer until this or until that.